Hello and welcome to a glorious winter afternoon in sunny southern Japan. As you can see to my right, I am standing beneath another temple. Not a Shinto shrine, mind you, but a Buddhist temple. You can always tell that it's Buddhist by the little gold cap on top of the roof with flames and what have you. And while I would love to take you inside and show you around and do a cigar review on the grounds, that is strictly forbidden, and we must smoke out here. But instead of popping a squat here in the parking lot and firing up a stogie for my review, I've decided that I'm going to stroll today. And that means doing things a little bit differently. We'll circle back to the truck here at the end of the review and pop out the jolly old ashtray for some parting puff shots and a synopsis. This will prevent us from having to deal with hauling an ashtray around, and all I'll need is my cigar and a beverage. Now, as for the cigar journal in my hand, well, that's out for a reason, because today's cigar review is a little bit of a complex affair. The stick that I speak of is none other than the Punch Rare Corojo from Honduras. This blend has a 92 rating from a cigar aficionado and is loved by many. We stock a couple of different vitolas here at Claro, with the Toro or Pita vitola in my hand being the one that I will be reviewing today. The Pita is 6 1/8 inches long with a 50 ring gauge. It is also softly box pressed. It has an Ecuadorian Sumatran wrapper, a Connecticut broadleaf binder, and then a blend of fillers that are Honduran, Nicaraguan, and Dominican, with the Dominican part being part Piloto Cubano. The cigar itself is a very oily, finely constructed thing. The box pressing is round, but not soft feeling, and it's just a wonderful looking cigar. And yes, you heard correct. This has an Ecuadorian Sumatran wrapper on it, not a Corojo. When I first learned that this cigar was called a Corojo but really was not a Corojo, it bothered me to no end. Wrapping a cigar in an Ecuadorian Sumatran wrapper and then calling it a Corojo is kind of like building an amazing gourmet hamburger with all these layers and then marketing it as having an all beef patty, when really what's inside is pure pork. Call it false advertising, if you will. Call it deception at its best. I don't really care. Whatever it is, it's confusing as all hell. Sure, the wrapper is very Corojo looking. It's incredibly deceptive. Without the knowledge that it's an Ecuadorian Sumatran wrapper, you might even think that it is like, a Colorado Rosado Corojo of some sort. And this regular Punch Rare Corojo is not to be mistaken with the 2011 10th anniversary version, which did have a very obscure Connecticut Corojo wrapper on it. So here we have this regular version, which really is only regular in that it's released regularly every year in February. Being that it is February, we've got a fresh batch in stock, and apparently Punch likes to market this cigar as a specialty item, even though it is, well, really not all that rare. But let's disregard all of the misinformation associated with the cigar and just appreciate it for what it has to offer, which comes through in spades. The wrapper smells a little bit on the dark side and leathery. A little bit of the oils from the tobacco come to the surface as well and kind of coat the nostrils and the palate. It also has some familiar Sumatran spice tingle to it, along with a faint hint of red licorice. The foot is more medium than leathery and Sumatran, and it smells almost like stewed cherries when you're making cherry jam in the house. Black cherries, mind you, none of that maraschino shit. There's also a faint hint of hickory to it, the raw kind, not smoked, along with more spice, a little bit of black pepper and red pepper flake, and a very nice, kind of funky undertone to it that probably is due to that Connecticut broadleaf binder. So if I were to refer to this as a Sumatran cigar, I would already be completely enamored. Man, it's gorgeous up here. Let's get to it, shall we? That thinner ring gauge makes me a little hesitant about punching it, so we will cut on this box press beauty. Cold pulls are very earthy and spicy. And there's also a good bit of a prune-like taste. That's actually what I got from those black cherry stewy notes from earlier. Stewy, yes. This isn't a syrupy sweetness, just a flavor profile, mind you. The cigar itself is a little bit more on the drier end. I do get some of the hickory notes too upon the palate, and man, that tingle on the tongue and all around the lips lets me know that this is going to be a spicy one. The first thing that you will likely detect in the cigar is that it doesn't have a lot of spice to the start. This allows you to appreciate a lot of the flavors of the cigar right from the beginning without being kicked in the teeth by a bunch of Corojo, red pepper spice, leatheriness, and things of that nature. Instead, what you get is a nice little dollop of hickory chip, along with some earth, some soil, some moderate baking spice, perhaps a little bit of nutmeg, and some cinnamon as well. There's also a sweetness to the cigar that does not take long to be activated. It's not a very sticky sweetness, but a faint one, almost like a dried turbinado of sorts. Well, I've just lost my ash. There's majority of the first third though, so not too shabby. You know what, it's also not too shabby? The flavor of this cigar along with retrohales. Where retrohales will pick up a little more on the red pepper spice and some intensity and some of that broadleaf funk from the binder. The Piloto Cubano, Dominican long filler, and whatever that combo of Honduran and Nicaraguan leaf inside provides some nice balanced earthen tones, more hickory, and that turbinado sweetness has turned into a little more of a mango lassi taste. This is not possible just from filler and binder alone though, mind you. That Ecuadorian Sumatran wrapper, which apparently is really rare, hence it only coming out once a year, does add that Sumatran spice we love. This can oftentimes be compared to things like milky chai tea, or, as I just mentioned, a mango lassi. It's not as fruity though as a mango lassi. It leans more toward the chai tea side. And with the hickory notes and that little hint of sweetness and the vanilla that's building inside of it, makes for a very good third. Draw has been outstanding, body's medium, flavor is medium, and so is strength. Ooh, those retro hills are spicy though, and I love it. Makes me think that there could actually be some Corojo leaf in that filler after all. So that's not to discredit the name of the cigar whatsoever. Let's continue on our walkabout because there's a lot more to taste and a lot more to see on this mountaintop trail. As I take a quick break and soak up the sun with the locals, I take a moment to look at the history of this cigar once again and think about why Punch created it in the first place. This non-Cuban punch has been produced out in Honduras since 2001 and has been very popular ever since its annual release. The blend has always stayed the same outside of that rare 10th anniversary edition or super rare edition. They're all called Rare Corojo, come to think of it. And as I mentioned earlier, that 10th anniversary did have a Connecticut Corojo wrapper on it. But everything else outside of that still has this Sumatran Ecuadorian wrapper. It seems like people don't really mind though. Sales are always excellent. Reviews continue to be solid for the most part. And right now, I find myself looking at this cigar and going, do I really even need a Corojo wrap cigar to enjoy the spice levels that I like? We'll see you guys at the event on Saturday, okay? You all take it easy. You know that it's almost springtime in Japan when the daikon radishes start to pop out of the ground like giant worms in the film Tremors. And then they all get a haircut. The second third's an interesting transition from the first third. The second third pivots away from the traditional red pepper, black pepper spice flavors and more toward the Sumatran exotic herb tea spice flavors. It's still spicy on the retrohale, but more of, cinnamon and rich cardamom pod like dry spice notes. Still has a little bit of heat to it in intensity, but the flavors aren't anything I would compare to Corojo leaf. It's still very much a Sumatran cigar, and a very good one at that. Where the second third started off with some more of those stewed dark cherry notes and a little bit of sweetness, they quickly moved into something that's a little more on the dry side, more hardwood focus, some of that hickory, along with a nice aftertaste that makes me think of vanilla beans. I picked up on this earlier in the cigar, but it wasn't nearly as rich or notable as it is at this moment. This smooths the cigar out exponentially. It becomes very creamy, very much on the lower end of medium as well in regard to strength. And the flavor, while still medium along with the body, mind you, doesn't really coat the palate like it did earlier. Very balanced, very clean, very much a high point of the cigar. Walkabout complete. We've circled back to where we started. And the final third has begun and ended all at once. The damn thing went out on me. Unexpectedly, too. It just had a great draw a moment ago, plenty of smoke, and poof, gone. So, time for a relight. There, that's better. Where were we? Ah, yes. I was just about to discuss how this cigar has moved toward a very dry final third. I expected it to get a little more darker and sweeter, and while it has gotten a little bit on darker in flavor, presumably from that Connecticut broadleaf binder, it's not so sweet. It's also not nearly as heavy as I thought it might be. Still very much a medium smoke, and a really good one at that. The Sumatran spice is the prominent flavor within the cigar right now, and it's a very straightforward taste. The finish, the aftertaste, when you're done blowing the smoke out, leaves you with a very clean aftertaste. None of the funk lingers, and you are left with a little bit of salinity as well. Slight bit of sea salt. Having a cigar that prefers to lean toward the lighter side on its final third is rather nice, especially in a Sumatran cigar with a Connecticut broadleaf binder. Typically, this combo leans more toward funky and super earthy, and oftentimes a little bitter and unpleasant in its aftertaste. So this transition is one that I find very desirable, as it does not leave me with stinky cigar breath. After that relight, the smoke has remained dry and clean tasting and continues to build in its salinity, the saltiness, something that you get on your lips if you lick them after you take a puff or two. Very good way to close this portion. Parting puffs do gradually get darker and more soil-like, rich Ecuadorian Sumatran stuff. But that's to be expected. All the oils and resins have decided to congregate in this portion of the cigar, so go figure. This is an exceptionally smooth, clean burning, clean tasting cigar. There is very little to dislike about it outside of the fact that, well, it's not a Corojo. It's interesting because I never thought I would be dinging a cigar for its name. Wrapper and construction issues, even having a crappy band could deter me from handing out points. But the name, the title, it's just misleading. A few other notable issues I had with the cigar was that it went out in the final third on me, and that the burn line on it did waver off and on in the first and second third. There weren't any touch-ups to be had, but I felt the need to break out the lighter a couple times, but stopped last moment just to see how it performed. And the cigar did perform well. It cleaned itself up rather nicely. However, the biggest issue with the cigar is that if you are buying one and are after a Corojo, this is not a Corojo. You're not going to get the Corojo level of spice that you typically would find in a red leaf wrapped cigar. You're going to get spice, but you're going to get Sumatran spice. You're going to get the chai tea, herb tea like flavor profile that you typically find in such a wrapper. It's good, but it's not what you are being marketed. So that's frustrating to me. However, if you want a really good Ecuadorian Sumatran wrap cigar with loads of flavor and a super clean, smooth finish, this one's a great one to opt for. It's not the best Sumatran cigar I've ever had, don't get me wrong there, but it's by no means a slouch either in its performance and flavor profiles. Hence it earning a 4.4 out of 5 stars in my book. A really good smoke that's perfect for outdoor weather. It stood up great even with the wind. Really like it a lot. Anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next review. Cheers.